Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan is threatening to launch a ground offensive against Kurds in northern Syria. Ankara has hit hundreds of Kurdish targets in airstrikes across southern Syria and Iraq since the weekend. Russia and the US have urged restraint to prevent the escalation of the situation. Turkey's threat follows a deadly bombing in Istanbul this morning, in Istanbul this month, which Ankara blames on Kurdish militants.
Turkish missiles are once again raining down on Kurdish areas. Turkey has been waging a war with Kurdish militants for decades. The Kurds inhabit a mountainous region straddling 5 countries, including Iraq and Syria. The largest number live in Turkey, where their fight for self-rule has always met a brutal response from Ankara. Turkey is blaming Kurdish forces in Iraq and Syria for a bombing in Istanbul earlier this month, which killed 6 people. The Kurds have denied involvement, but Turkey has responded with attacks in Iraq and chiefly northern Syria. Here, Turkey or pro-Turkish fighters already control some border areas, shown here in blue. President Recep Tayyip Erdogan wants to expand that area and is targeting land controlled by Kurdish forces and their allies, shown here in yellow. The Kurds killed in Turkish airstrikes here are allies of the US and were instrumental in driving back militants from the Islamic State group in Syria. But Turkey sees no difference between the Kurdish fighters here and the outlawed PKK terrorist group. The Kurds, for their part, are fighting back as they've always done, firing rockets into Turkish-controlled areas in northern Syria. The United States and Russia are urging Turkey to show restraint, but so far those calls are going unheeded.
We can pick this up with Selim Çevik, who's an expert on Turkish politics at the Centre for Applied Turkey Studies. Welcome to DW. So Turkey says it's neutralised what it says are Kurdish terrorists. What does that look like on the ground?
Well, Turkey is conducting, as already mentioned in the news, several airstrikes, use its advanced drone technology in this struggle, and it has been targeting key military personnel of YPG, the Kurdish guerrilla movement there, for quite some years. But recently it has kind of accelerated those attacks and is in a way pushing the YPG militants further away from its border.
And yesterday, President Erdogan was talking about launching a ground operation at what he called the most convenient time. How seriously should that threat be taken?
Very seriously. I mean, it has actually, since the last 6 months, Erdogan has kept on talking about a new ground operation. But the Turkish ground operation, like the 4 previous Turkish ground operations, are contingent upon Russian or American approval, because these countries control the airspace in Syria. So far, throughout the last 6 months, both Russia and United States prevented Erdogan from this ground offensive. But things are really changing due to the Russian aggression in Ukraine. This increases Turkey's geostrategic value, both in the eyes of US and in the eyes of Russians. So this gives Erdogan a big leverage to use, and he is using that. So I am expecting that eventually he would get the green light for a ground operation as well. Maybe not today, not next month, but within a couple of months at the latest, because Turkey has also elections coming, there will be a ground operation most probably.
So if that happens, what sort of scale is that likely to happen at, and how is that likely to affect Turkey's relations with the US and Russia?
It depends on where that attack happens. Turkey has declared 3 areas, Tel Rifat, Münbiç and Kobani. I think Tel Rifat and Münbiç are more strategically important, particularly for the Russians, because if Turkey occupies those regions, it also starts to threaten Aleppo, a major Syrian city. So I'm expecting that if an attack goes to these 2 countries, Russians would be more aggressively opposing it. But if attack is directed to Kobani, it is easier for Turkey to get a green light from the Russians. In contrast, for the Americans, Kobani is more important than the other 2 regions. But my reading is that Americans are becoming less and less committed to prevent a Turkish ground operation. So if that operation is limited with Kobani region, I think there would be little repercussions from the Russians or Americans or Iranians as well, because Iran is also on the ground, another major regional country. So if it targets Kobani, I'm not expecting a big regional and international backlash to that operation.
OK, that's very clear. Thank you so much for outlining that for us, Selim Çevik, from the Centre for Applied Turkey Studies.
Thank you for having me.